What if I told you that the ancient philosophers had already solved one of the most complex problems we face in modern relationships? What if the secret to loving deeply without losing yourself, without becoming possessive, jealous, or toxic, was discovered over 2,000 years ago in the marble halls of ancient Greece and Rome? Today, we're diving into one of the most transformative concepts in Stoic philosophy that will completely change how you approach love, relationships, and human connection. This isn't just another relationship advice video. This is about mastering the art of loving without attachment, caring without controlling, and giving without expecting. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the Stoics believed that true love actually requires a form of emotional detachment, and how this counterintuitive approach can save your relationships and your sanity. But first, let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in love, deeply, madly, completely in love. Your heart races when you see their name on your phone. You constantly worry about losing them. You check their social media obsessively. You analyze every text message for hidden meanings. You feel jealous when they spend time with friends. You make sacrifices that leave you resentful. You lose sleep wondering if they love you as much as you love them. Sound familiar? This is what most people call love, but the Stoics would call this something else entirely. They would call this suffering. They would call this attachment. And they would tell you that this isn't love at all, but rather a form of emotional prison that you've built for yourself. Now, before you click away thinking this is going to be some cold, emotionless approach to relationships, stick with me. Because what I'm about to share isn't about loving less. It's about loving better. It's about loving in a way that actually serves the other person, instead of serving your own insecurities and fears. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say, possess the people, or control the people, or make the people responsible for your happiness. He said, love them. Pure, simple, unconditional love. So what does this look like in practice? Let's start with the foundation of Stoic love, which is understanding the difference between love and attachment. In our modern world, we've confused these two concepts so thoroughly that we think they're the same thing. But they're not. They're actually opposites. Attachment is about you. It's about what you need, what you want, what makes you feel secure. When you're attached to someone, you love them because of how they make you feel. You love them because they validate you, because they fill a void in your life, because they make you feel complete. This kind of love is transactional, it's conditional, and it's inherently selfish. Love, on the other hand, is about them. It's about wanting the best for another person, regardless of how that affects you. It's about caring for their well-being, their growth, their happiness, even if it means they might choose a path that doesn't include you. This kind of love is transformational, it's unconditional, and it's inherently selfless. Here's where it gets really interesting. The Stoics taught that attachment is the root of all suffering in relationships. When you're attached to someone, you're constantly afraid of losing them. This fear drives you to behave in ways that are actually more likely to push them away. You become clingy, possessive, jealous, controlling. You try to manipulate their feelings to make yourself feel more secure. You make them responsible for your emotional state. But here's the paradox that the Stoics understood. The more tightly you try to hold on to someone, the more likely you are to lose them. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who knew something about loss having been born a slave, taught that we should love others as if they were on loan to us. He said, "When you kiss your child or your wife, say that you only kiss a human being, for thus you will not be disturbed if either of them dies." Now, this might sound cold or heartless, but it's actually the opposite. It's recognizing the impermanent nature of all relationships and choosing to love fully within that reality. It's about appreciating what you have while you have it, without the desperate clinging that comes from trying to make permanent what is inherently temporary. Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed that the most attractive people, the ones you're most drawn to, are often the ones who seem like they don't need you? They're confident, independent, secure in themselves. They love you, but they don't need you to complete them. They have their own lives, their own interests, their own sense of purpose. This isn't coldness, this is emotional maturity. This is Stoic love. So how do you develop this kind of love? How do you care deeply without becoming attached? How do you invest in relationships without losing yourself? The Stoics gave us several practical principles that we can apply right now. First, focus on what you can control. In any relationship, there are things you can control and things you can't. You can control your own actions, your own words, your own choices. You can control how much effort you put into the relationship, how kindly you treat the other person, how present you are when you're together. But you cannot control their feelings, their choices, their responses to your love. You cannot control whether they stay or leave, whether they love you back, whether they appreciate your efforts. The moment you try to control these things, you move from love into manipulation. You move from giving into taking. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you feel anxious about your relationship, ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now that's actually outside of my control? Then redirect that energy towards something you can actually influence. Instead of worrying about whether they'll text you back, focus on being someone worth texting back. Instead of trying to make them jealous, focus on being someone who inspires genuine desire. Instead of demanding their attention, focus on being someone whose attention is valuable. Second, practice loving without conditions. This doesn't mean accepting bad behavior or staying in toxic situations. It means loving someone for who they are, not for who you want them to be. It means supporting their growth, even when that growth takes them in directions you didn't expect. It means celebrating their success, even when it doesn't directly benefit you. Most people love conditionally without even realizing it. They love someone as long as that person makes them feel good, validates their worth, meets their needs, behaves in ways they approve of. But conditional love isn't really love at all. It's a contract, it's an exchange, and contracts can be broken. Unconditional love, Stoic love, says, I love you because you exist, not because of what you do for me. I want you to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. I want you to grow, even if that growth changes you in ways I don't expect. I want you to be free, even if that freedom means you might choose to leave. This kind of love is actually more attractive, not less. When someone knows they are loved without conditions, they don't feel the need to perform or pretend. They can be authentic, they can be vulnerable, they can actually love you back instead of just trying to earn your love. Third, maintain your own center. The Stoics believed that each person is responsible for their own happiness, their own sense of worth, their own emotional state. This means you cannot make someone else responsible for your well-being, and you cannot take responsibility for theirs. This is perhaps the hardest lesson for people to learn, especially those who pride themselves on being caring and giving. They think love means sacrificing yourself for another person. They think it means making someone else's happiness more important than your own. But this isn't love. This is codependence, and it's toxic for both people involved. When you make someone else responsible for your happiness, you put an enormous burden on them. You make them feel guilty for having their own needs, their own interests, their own life. You make your emotional state their problem to solve. This creates resentment, not love. Similarly, when you try to take responsibility for someone else's happiness, you rob them of their own power. You send the message that you don't believe they're capable of handling their own emotions, making their own choices, solving their own problems. This creates dependence, not love. Stoic love says, I am responsible for my own happiness, and you are responsible for yours. I will support you, encourage you, and care for you, but I will not try to live your life for you. I will share my life with you, but I will not lose myself in the process. Fourth, practice the discipline of desire. The Stoics taught that we suffer not because of what happens to us, but because of our desires about what should happen to us. In relationships, this means letting go of your expectations about how the other person should behave, how the relationship should develop, how love should be expressed. This doesn't mean having no standards or accepting anything. It means distinguishing between your preferences and your attachments. You can prefer that your partner is faithful, but you cannot be attached to their faithfulness in a way that makes your self-worth dependent on their choices. You can prefer that they express love in certain ways, but you cannot demand that they love you exactly as you want to be loved. The discipline of desire means loving what is, not what you wish was. It means appreciating the person in front of you, not the person you're trying to change them into. It means enjoying the relationship you have, not mourning the relationship you think you should have. Here's what this looks like practically. Instead of saying, "You never tell me you love me," you might say, "I love hearing you express your feelings." Instead of, "You always prioritize work over me," you might say, "I value our time together and would love to find ways to connect that work with your schedule." Instead of, "You don't care about me," you might say, "I'm feeling disconnected and would love to understand how you prefer to show care." See the difference? The first approach is about what they're not doing for you. The second approach is about what you need and how you can work together to create it. One creates defensiveness and conflict. The other creates understanding and connection. Fifth, embrace impermanence. The Stoics understood that everything in life is temporary. Every relationship, no matter how strong, will eventually end. This isn't pessimistic, it's realistic, and it's actually liberating. When you truly accept that nothing lasts forever, you stop trying to grasp so tightly. You stop wasting energy on the impossible task of making permanent what is inherently temporary. Instead, you focus on loving fully in the present moment. This doesn't mean you don't plan for the future or invest in long-term relationships. It means you hold those plans and investments lightly. You do your part to build something beautiful, but you don't attach your sense of self to the outcome. Marcus Aurelius practiced this by regularly contemplating the temporary nature of all things. He would remind himself that everything he loved would eventually be gone, not to make himself sad, but to make himself grateful. When you really understand that your time with someone is limited, every moment becomes precious. Every conversation becomes meaningful. Every opportunity to show love becomes important. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. You might be thinking, this all sounds nice in theory, but what about when I'm actually triggered? What about when I feel jealous or insecure or afraid of losing someone? What about when my emotions are so strong that all this philosophical wisdom goes out the window? This is where the practical rubber meets the philosophical road. The Stoics weren't asking us to become emotionless robots. They were asking us to become emotionally intelligent. They understood that feelings are natural and inevitable, but they also understood that we have a choice in how we respond to those feelings. When you feel jealousy rising, the Stoic approach isn't to suppress it or pretend it doesn't exist. It's to observe it with curiosity. Interesting, I'm feeling jealous right now. What is this feeling trying to tell me? What am I afraid of? What am I trying to control? Often, jealousy is just fear in disguise. Fear of abandonment, fear of not being good enough, fear of being alone. When you can identify the fear underneath the jealousy, you can address the real issue instead of acting out the symptom. Instead of checking their phone or demanding explanations or creating drama, you might say, "I'm feeling insecure right now, and that's about me, not about you. I'm going to take some time to work through this feeling, and then I'd love to talk about how we can both feel more secure in our relationship." This is emotional maturity. This is taking responsibility for your own feelings while still being honest about them. This is loving without becoming toxic. Let's talk about practical daily habits that can help you develop this kind of Stoic love. Every morning before you check your phone or engage with anyone else, spend 5 minutes reminding yourself of 3 things. First, you are complete as you are. You don't need anyone else to make you whole. Second, everyone in your life is on their own journey. Your job is to love and support them, not to control their path. Third, today might be the last day you have with the people you love. How do you want to show up? Throughout the day, practice the pause. Before you react to something your partner says or does, take a breath and ask yourself, is my reaction coming from love or from fear? Am I responding to what's actually happening or to what I'm afraid might happen? How can I respond in a way that serves both of us? In conversations, practice listening to understand rather than listening to defend or convince. Try to see the world through their eyes. Ask questions that come from genuine curiosity rather than from a desire to prove a point. Remember that you can disagree with someone and still love them. You can be disappointed in someone's choices and still support their right to make those choices. When conflicts arise, and they will, remember that the goal isn't to win. The goal is to understand and to be understood. The goal is to find solutions that honor both people's needs and values. The goal is to strengthen the relationship, not to prove who's right. Practice gratitude actively. Every day, find something about your partner or your relationship that you appreciate and express it. Not because you want something in return, but because appreciation is a choice, and choosing to see the good in people is a practice that benefits everyone. And finally, maintain your own life. Keep your friendships, your hobbies, your goals, your dreams. Don't disappear into the relationship. The most loving thing you can do for someone is to remain an interesting, growing, evolving person. You can't give what you don't have, and if you don't have a sense of self, you can't give real love. Here's what's beautiful about this approach. When you love someone without attachment, without conditions, without trying to control them, you actually become more attractive to them, not less. You become someone who enhances their life rather than someone who limits it. You become someone they choose to be with rather than someone they feel obligated to stay with. But here's the most important part. Even if they don't choose you, even if the relationship doesn't work out the way you hoped, you'll be okay. Because your happiness, your worth, your completeness doesn't depend on any one person or any one relationship. You'll be sad, yes. You'll grieve, yes. But you won't be destroyed. Because you've learned to love without losing yourself. This is the gift of Stoic philosophy. It doesn't promise that life will be easy or that relationships will always work out. It promises that you can handle whatever comes. It promises that you can love deeply and lose gracefully. It promises that you can care about others without making them responsible for your well-being. The ancient Stoics faced the same relationship challenges we face today. They dealt with heartbreak, betrayal, loss, and loneliness. But they also discovered something profound. When you approach love from a place of inner strength rather than inner need, when you give from abundance rather than scarcity, when you love because it's who you are rather than because of what you hope to get, You transform not just your relationships, but your entire experience of being human. So I challenge you to try this approach. For the next week, practice loving without attachment. Focus on what you can control. Give without expecting. Appreciate without possessing. See what happens. See how it feels. See how others respond to you when you love them from this place of freedom rather than fear. And remember, this isn't about becoming perfect. This is about becoming more conscious. Every time you catch yourself trying to control someone else's feelings or making someone else responsible for your happiness, you have an opportunity to choose differently. Every time you feel the urge to check their phone or demand reassurance or create drama, you have a chance to pause and ask yourself, what would love do here? The Stoics believed that we become what we practice. If you practice attachment, you become attached, possessive, and ultimately unhappy. If you practice love without attachment, you become loving, free, and genuinely attractive to others. This is how you love without becoming toxic. This is how you care without controlling. This is how you give your heart without losing your mind. This is the ancient wisdom that can transform your modern relationships. What will you choose to practice today? If this video has given you a new perspective on love and relationships, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your challenges with trying to love in this way. And if you want more content on applying ancient wisdom to modern life, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Remember, the journey to emotional freedom starts with a single step, and that step is always available to you in this present moment. Choose love over fear, freedom over attachment, and growth over comfort. Your future self and your future relationships will thank you for it.